Welcome to our ASQ Innovation Technical Community. I am Dr. Rhonda Farrell, the webinar chair of our phenomenal ASQ organization. And today you are just so lucky because you have Dr. Ron Kelley, who is the founder of Green Gap Solutions and a significant contributor of innovation, risk management, and operational excellence, in addition to the fact that he's a founder of a recent AI-oriented nonprofit, empowering the likes of each and every one of you. He brings a lifetime of skills and experience, not only from an academic perspective, but a commercial perspective and a government and national science perspective, leading the instructional base for the I-Core program at the University of Wisconsin, teaching across the many different AI experience spaces. And not only can he teach, but he really drives the curriculum creation for content for Canvas learning management systems. He has again, a deep and wide spectrum of experience in quality and in innovation, and is one of the few who has earned the Distinguished Innovator Award from Motorola. And not only that, he is a true engineer at heart with over 31 US patents. So help me please give a warm welcome to our phenomenal speaker of the day, Dr. Ron Kelley. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Rhonda. So I'm going to fumble around here as usual because this is a webinar. So here goes the controls, right? And then hopefully I'll get the right thing going here. And then we'll share that. Come on, share. I'm not used to WebEx, so I still am not sharing. We just did this, Rhonda. Come on. There we go. You just have to know how to click the buttons, right? So let me get this control thing in the right spot. So what's going on? Okay. Here we go. Come on. So the first thing is, so I want to get some information from you. I think this, so this is a slot, a poll. So if you all please go ahead and grab that QR code. And there's a purpose for this. Tell me what countries produce the most grain. It'll get you used to using this poll. I don't know how many people have used this particular platform, but I've been playing with all sorts of different ones. Well, we've got a nice flat distribution here. China. So the question is, since you're all experts at ChatGPT, the percentage of correct answers should have gone up since the last time I did this poll. Okay, thank you very much. Let's see what the answer is. That's me. Come on. There we go. So those who said China are correct. India is second, the United States is third. And this is, and Russia is fourth. It used to be, where did we have here? Russia. See, people generally think that Russia is right at the top of the list, but it turns out China is. That always surprised me. But when you think about when we say grain, we're talking rice too. So it's fascinating. Anyway, this is an example of using ChatGPT for a very simple thing. It's basically a better search tool, right? Because you don't get all the baloney that you do when you're searching with Google. So just one. So here you go, folks. This is what we're here to talk about. So you know all about AI, I hope by now, because I'm assuming that you're going to know a lot about AI when we go through this. So this is what we'll talk about: a brief review of the AI landscape And then we're going to identify some of the key advancements of the last few months. And there are a lot of advancements in the last few months. And then I'll help you understand how you can move up the AI curve. Now, I'm here because I'm focused in my nonprofit on mid-career professionals, not young people. There's enough opportunities out there for young people, but mid-career professionals, this is their opportunity to uh, advance their careers by becoming effective with AI, and in particular, so like ChatGPT, even the simplest one. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the AI landscape. And I want to talk about this because there's a lot of hype out there. Rhonda, are you monitoring the chat so if somebody has a question, I can address it quickly?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
oh,
All
thank you.
right. Or has there's often a lot of opinions on different things. So we just heard about ethical AI. We can talk about that later. So, okay, let's talk about the hype. Where did that come from? Well, as everybody knows by now, it came from starting out back in 2022, that when they released ChatGPT, it went from 0 to 100 million in 3 months, the fastest any new app or any new piece of software has ever gone up. So this looked a lot like a craze, like frenzy. And it looked a lot like this. As people remember, I think you probably are familiar with the Gartner hype cycle. It's very popular. And by the way, this particular shape of this curve looks a lot like the history of AI. There's been peaks and valleys throughout the history of AI. I happen to be involved in one of the peaks when I worked at Motorola, and we were using AI neural networks for materials discovery. It didn't work out so well. There've been a couple of other peaks that haven't worked out so well, but this one appears to be working out pretty well. So we're still waiting for the various companies like Nvidia have gone through the roof. They just reported earnings and went up 15% yesterday. I don't know when it's going to stop. Their PE is astronomical. So soon, I believe we're going to have a day of reckoning. But here we are today, and people have been saying that we're going to cool off, but we haven't. So this is interesting. This is the standard Google Trends analysis over the longer period of time. You can see April 23rd, 2023 is in the middle, but the other one, went in 1922. So it looked like we were going to hit a peak right here at the top of this curve. And it looked like, oh, well, there goes the hype. We're going to crash. But then it picked back up again. And then we had another little dip, and then it picked back up again. By the way, for reference, this line in the middle, the purple one, that's Java. So it's pretty popular programming language. And people searching Java are not up to the about 50% of what ChatGPT is. So, and whereas the other sort of AI is not even close, but they're still very important just because they're not. Everybody knows about ChatGPT. So this is AI is moving very fast. This little video was done many months ago, and I'm going to show you another video. This is primitive, right, compared to what I was able to do on Mid Journey back in, I don't know, November. This has changed, but I like it. It's a cool video from a text prompt. Okay, so let's do this poll. What we said we would do. How familiar are you with AI chatbots? So this is a word cloud. Oh no, this is actually a multiple choice. So not familiar, familiar. Tried using it a few times, but not successful. I've used it successfully. I'm all in. I do it all the time. I'm a maniac. Yeah, you innovation people. I assumed that we'd have quite a few people that were at this end. That's not normal, right? Usually it's split. But I suspect with time, it's going to be more and more like this. Okay, so we have a lot of experience. That's good because my goal in this talk was not generally what I do when I give talks, and I do a regular lunch and learn at ASQ 509 with them, jointly with them. And normally it's a workshop. It's definitely hands-on. Walk through it. This is not going to be hands-on because I promised in my abstract that we'd do a little bit of an overview, and I'm really happy that we did because of some of the things that have happened. Okay. There we go. Okay. That wasn't supposed to go there. Got ahead of myself. So ChatGPT democratized. You've heard this term before if you're familiar with it. ChatGPT democratizes AI. The reason is chat. So it turns out Google invented this algorithm back in 2017, and Google sat on it. Uh, I don't think it was nefarious. I think they developed AI and put it into their products for the benefit of their customers. It didn't occur to them that you could put something as sophisticated like a large language model, an LLM, or a GPT in the hands of the regular average person. But this is what OpenAI did. They attached chat to it, so it became a chat bot with an LLM backend. So what is a chat GPT? It's first of all, what's GPT? GPT means generative pre-trained transformer. And this democratizes AI because of the chat, the user interface. That's always important. We always neglect the user interface, right? What made PCs really popular? Well, the mouse and a graphical user interface. And that was it for the PC. That's what's going on here. That's all it is. It's not that there wasn't AI before this. It's the user interface. And so a very important item to pay attention to is the pre-trained, because a lot of people are afraid of AI, and so we're going to talk about that. So generative AI is the idea is that there's an AI, the large language model, and it generates data in the process. The way it works is that there must be training of the model to begin with, and then through inference, that's you asking it questions and it responding, that's inference. So it requires compute resources for training and it requires compute resources for inference. So it accesses huge amounts of data. And the important thing is GPT learns the structure of language. If it was just a large database of the corpus of all the internet, it wouldn't be smart, but it learns the structure of language. And that's what makes it appear to be intelligent. So, but it's not. AI is not intelligent, nor is it artificial. It's actually real. So let me ask you this question, another one. What concerns do you have about using AI technologies in the quality management? So this is the word cloud. So please go ahead and fill this in. Let's see what you have to say about your concerns, because there are a lot of concerns. And I'd like to hear what you think. Is it not working? Oh, here we go. That's interesting. Okay. Accuracy. We've got a big accuracy up there. Many times I've seen risk, but I'm not going to distort the result here. So we've got bias, accuracy. Bias and accuracy are the most prominent terms here. That's great. I'll share the results of these polls, and if you want, you can continue to fill up your three. It's pretty interesting. Accuracy and bias. All right. It's also interesting is that thing does not move forward unless I make it full screen. Okay, let me try to explain what I mean when I say this is not intelligent and it's actually not it's not running wild. What ChatGPT or GPT in general, all of them, the large language models are trained, they're pre-trained. So otherwise you just have a neural network that doesn't know anything. It's stupid. Without training, it doesn't produce anything. So you've got this neural network, and what happens is over here on the left, this is all hand done by thousands and thousands of human beings. So the human being samples a prompt, and then they they for example, they ask one of those standard questions, explain something to a 6-year-old. They sample the prompt, and then the labeler, the human being, demonstrates the desired output behavior to the machine, right? So the machine doesn't know anything yet. This is how it learns. This information goes into the neural net right here. So that's the process of fine tuning, or as they call it, supervised fine tuning, because the labeler is supervising it. Step 2, collect comparison data and train a reward model. Reward models are known in numerical analysis or optimization, where so we won't get into that, but it's just a way to to optimize a system, right? By giving it there's a function that we optimize, and it's called a reward model. So anyway, so we ask it again, explain reinforcement learning to a 6-year-old, and this time the labeler takes the output and rank orders the results A, B, C, and D in order of the best results. Okay. So the labeler ranks these outputs from best to worst. So they get 4 outputs and they rank them from best to worst. And then they feed this back into the neural net. So it's a 2-step process. Then step 3 is optimize a policy against the reward model that, as I just mentioned, this is the reinforcement learning. Okay, first we teach it, then we reinforce it. And this is where things get different, because now we're going to put in things that have nothing to do with the training. So a new prompt is sampled from the data set, write a story about otters. And this model, initialized from the supervisory policy, goes into the neural net. The policy generates an output. The reward model calculates a reward for the output. Is it right or wrong, and how right or wrong it is? And now there's no human beings here. This is just reinforcement. And then we get a result. And so once they do that, we keep going around and round and round and back and forth, continuous improvement done by these people, not by machine, by people. So when you get results out of the GPT, you're getting the results of a bunch of people training this machine. So it's really people. It's not actually a machine. It seems like that, but it's learning from people. So you should know that, because when you walk away from GPT or any of these neural networks, they don't think. They don't sit there thinking about what they're going to do on vacation. They stop, and they've learned from people. So they learn on a massive corpus of information, the internet, and GPT-3 has got 75 billion parameters, requiring 800 gigabytes to store. Now, GPT-4, I don't have 4.5, and this is a guess. Nobody knows. 1.7 trillion parameters. So 570 gigabytes. I think this is larger or something. Oh, require 570 gigabytes of parameters, requiring 1 petabyte to store. That's a lot of storage. So it learns the structure of the framework of the language and the logic. That's the thing. So when people talk about GPT or these AI models stealing things, well, they certainly can sort of come up with a copy of a particular work of art if they game the system with the prompts, because the system has everything built in. It's as if you're an art student and you spend a lot of time under the tutelage of a master artist, and you go to the museum, learn how the master painted, various arts. Eventually you can reproduce that art. So that's kind of what it's doing. But that doesn't mean you don't have to watch out for it stealing things, right? And reproducing, even though it's not actually stealing. All right. So now what's new? This is why we're here today. I'm here today anyway. So this is kind of old here. I had to update this. So back the last time I talked about this, the thing that was new was the GPT store. That Sam Altman, OpenAI, that was a big deal. You could construct your own GPT, which is an application, I, and then you could put it on the store. I'm not going to talk about that because that's old news right now. Uh, APIs, learning how to use APIs, and something called LangChain, and I'm going to talk about that. Creating agents. Agents are uh, applications that will work to learn the work with the large language model, and they will do actions. And you can have more than one agent at a time. So they'll some of these like Mistral have multiple agents working that improves their results. So the thing that's really new just recently is Microsoft Copilot for Office 365 and Microsoft Copilot Pro and all that. It used to be called Bing, but they rebranded it to make it consistent across the platforms. Same thing with Google. Google used to be Bard, and they came up with a new model, Gemini, and now all of Google, all of their chatbots and everything is referred to as Gemini for consistent branding. And then another thing that's really exciting to me are smaller language models, which are open source. And some of the best ones are produced by, of all companies, Meta. And Zuckerberg is committed to doing open source models. And these are really useful because we use something called RAG, which I'm going to explain in a minute. And then you can use that for private information behind your firewall. That's really cool. So agents, here's an example of an agent. So agents have built into them the ChatGPT and a task to do, and then they break that task up into separate items where one agent is specialized on the task and another agent is specialized on working with the large language model. So it turns out that having multiple agents working on a task is better. And this is a conversible agent. And then there's multi-agent conversions where they actually have hierarchies and work together. Sometimes I saw an example of agents developing software and another agent conversing with that agent, the agent that was doing the test of the software, and then a couple other agents involved in that. It's very amusing to watch, but I don't know if anybody else has seen anything like that. Okay, any questions on this so far? Okay. Okay, this is the really cool thing that just happened. I bet everybody's seen this, but in the chat, could you guys tell me if you're familiar with Sora? If you've seen the announcements? I can't see the chat.
You're getting a lot of yeses and a little bit of, well, now you're half and half.
Okay, good. So
Okay.
this picture of these puppies is my favorite one from Sora. And it's just amazing. I'm not going to run all of the videos that I have, but I downloaded. This is the one that probably is the most dramatic. So we'll play this. Now remember this, and this was demonstrated by Altman online on Twitter. I don't know if this specific one was, but they took requests from people on Twitter and just put in simple prompts. The prompt for this was something to the effect of a Asian woman walking down a crowded city street, and just a couple other little details. And the AI came up with this video text to video, incredible, absolutely amazing. This is what has some people rattled, right? So let's find out if you're rattled. So here's a question. What word best describes your feelings towards the future of AI? It's kind of schizophrenic, right? Excited, nervous, worried. you you're you're pretty much excited. But there's a lot of other negative terms. They're smaller. Inevitable. I like that. Yeah, it's kind of inevitable. So like taking over human. Curious, fascinating. Okay. Uh it's interesting. We're all concerned. We have mixed emotions over this, right? So I don't know. I think I think all the past we've seen, we've had other technologies that was going to destroy the planet, like the PC revolution, the internet revolution, and it seems like we got over it. Okay, here's the next one that just came out. I got this because I happen to have a Google Workspace. Gemini, well, I don't have 1.5. Gemini 1.5 is a massive model. So this is the context, 1 million tokens. That's about 750,000 words. So currently ChatGPT is, well, it depends on what model you have, but 8,000 tokens. And if you use ChatGPT, there's a couple of different issues. You know, if you try to, you can with GPT 4.5, you can upload documents, but it's it's interesting how fast you run out of the context space, the context window, because it's everything that you upload and all the answers you get back. So you find that you can run out of space fairly quickly in the model. And the other thing that's interesting is ChatGPT forgets, right? If you really get into a long conversation, it'll forget the earlier parts. Where so they claim, by the way, this is all vaporware, and if anybody's familiar with some of the things Google's pulled recently, not sure if you can believe everything they're saying, but I tend to think this is probably true from what I've heard about other people who've gotten some sneak peeks. This has very good results. There's a table out there about in their papers that show how strong they are compared to other models like GPT 4.5 when it comes to the various tests like medical students and things like that. It looks very good. But the key is for those of us who want to load up a bunch of documents and work with a bunch of documents at the same time, this is now an alternative that wasn't before. Before, you couldn't put a lot of documents into your chat. You had to use what we're going to talk about, RAG, in order to actually learn, in order to use a bunch of documents. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that because there's no time. I'm going to talk about RAG to riches. I'm really excited by this. By the way, Microsoft doesn't admit that that's what they're doing, but in reality, this is a RAG and this is really a mess. So let me try to explain what this is. Microsoft has their own terminology. So they create what's called the Microsoft Graph, which is they look at all of your data that's behind the firewall. And by the way, the selling point for Microsoft is all this is behind the firewall. They don't train. If you have the high level, the Microsoft um, Copilot or Copilot for Microsoft 365, that level they do not train on your data. If you're just using the free Bing, or now it's called free Copilot online, they train on your data. That's not private. But if you buy their service, it's it's they don't train on your data. They don't release your data into the wild. So it's supposed to be perfectly secure. Anyway, so what do? They grab all of your data. They've been doing this already, and they have this semantic net where they grab your data and build this network of your data. All right, that's the first step. Then they have in here a large language model, which they prompt, which is GPT, right? They have access to that. So what this thing does, when you give it a prompt, it first of all, it takes, well, before it even does that, it takes all of your data and it puts in what's called a vector database. I don't see this here, but you put all of your data in a vector database. And when you put in a prompt, it sends it puts your prompt, breaks your prompt up into small chunks and puts that in the vector database. Then it sends all of that information, your data, your relevant data, which is determined as part of the prompt, and your question, right? So it's sending two chunks of information to be processed. Well, it turns out that if you're sending to the large language model this extra precision of data, you get much better results. That's the idea. So that's what this is. It's a clumsy diagram, but the important point is that's what they're doing. So let me show you an easier diagram. This is what RAG really is, and this is what people are doing with small open source models. So it turns out you can take like this mm, uh, small language model by Meta, the 70B model, and there's also something called Mistral. These are smaller models, but you can put those on your own computer. They're not that big. You have to have a fairly good size hard drive. So you can take this pre-trained model and put it on your hard drive. Then what that does is it allows you to actually query it the way you would the larger model. But the reason this works, it's smaller, so it doesn't know as much. It's not been pre-trained on as many parameters. So remember I said what it's really learning is the structure of your language, the structure of things. But it doesn't know the whole world. Whereas that 1.7 peta the huge model of ChatGPT, or the huge model of GPT 4.5, that's totally general. It's general. So you can ask it anything about any topic and it'll probably have some answer. Whereas when you put one of these small models behind your firewall, you're going to have to train it to do specific things. Or you do something called RAG, which is this pretty well trained, and then you take all of your information, right? You can put files, a group of files, which is simple as I take a folder of files and I put this into this what's called an embedding model. The embedding model breaks up your data and creates a vector chunks of data which go to a vector database. Uh, we're gonna have a session on vector databases later in the lunch and learn that I do. But right now, just think of this as a bunch of chunks of data, and it's vectorized so that it's numerical instead of words, and you can find it. As you can see, pretty hard. It's not storing your data; it's storing vectors. So then it it accesses it. You tell it by the prompt to go find your document. So you have knowledge documents here. Takes those documents, the information from that, and it creates a new prompt, combines your knowledge and the prompt, and sends it to the LLM, just the way Microsoft did. Except we're using a smaller model because it's just you, and you could decide how to use it. Then you get a response back. This is called retrieval augmented generation. The augmentation, you're augmenting it with knowledge from you. So I actually have one of these, and I can tell you it works better than ChatGPT sometimes. So anyway, here's the open source models that you can just pick up: Llama 2, Mistral, Falcon, I haven't used. MPT and Bloom. This is just, there's other ones out there. So this is not a complete list of all the open source models. And they all have their strengths and weaknesses. Okay. So this is what we're using that for. NVIDIA came out with, you could build these. There's a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of ways. You know, a little Python. You could have done this before. You can create, there's a source of open source applications called Hugging Face, where you can, if you know Python, you can grab these things and you could have built your own RAG model, which is using the small model, like for Llama, and this application for RAG. You could have done this before. But for those of us who are lazier, NVIDIA, to demonstrate the power of their awesome video cards, right? This is a marketing thing, brilliant thing. They came up with this chat with RTX. Okay. And this is what it looks like on your computer. So this, this is really great. I'll just tell you, if I went through a demo, it would have taken too long. This is what I did. I did a project with the FDA, and we had a bunch of documents, everything from, we were setting up a quality management system. So I had a bunch of ISO documents. I had a bunch of FDA documents, and every time, and I was setting up this, plus I have management documents and visions and missions. Every time I sat down to try to work on this quality management system and work with my sponsor, my head would spin. All this information all over the place. Well, so I did the experiment. Right up here is where you point this system, RTX. Uh, RTX is a card, but you point the model at some folder on your computer. And they're using, remember, I mentioned Mistral. They're using Mistral large language model. So you point at your documents in a folder, and then you start asking the questions. It's really fast. It doesn't take a long time for it to chunk up your data and put it in a vector database. But you can watch it in the background. Do this. Uh, do the whole thing. It actually embeds your data, and it's a lot of fun to watch. But the thing is, I asked it questions and it just plain lightning fast spit out the answers. Anything I want. I had it look in comparison to ISO with their mission statement. Mm, and some things that I knew the answer to, I asked it. If they were compliant sort of with the ISO standard in their mission statement, or if they're well correlated, things like that. And it got it. The answer is correct, and it got it correct lightning fast. This is I think, it's a really big deal. So if you really like ChatGPT and the fact that you can upload documents and have it work on those, you're going to like this, because you can have it look at uh, uh, you can look at whole folders, whole bunches of documents at the same time. Finally,
Ron, two
yep,
questions for you.
yeah.
One gentleman wants to know what companies are working on RAG models.
Well, NVIDIA and just about the RAG model is a general model that I would say lots of independent YouTubers are setting up their own uh, small language models at home. Companies who need to have, like, small companies that can't afford um, Copilot with Microsoft and things like that. So, and me.
Okay, one more for you. We have a gentleman say, what about the AGI from OpenAI? Will it be democratized?
The what? AGI?
Yes, AGI from OpenAI.
Oh, you're talking about there is no AGI yet. They're just talk about having artificial general intelligence. And that's almost a philosophical question now. Do you believe that they're going to have artificial general intelligence? I don't even know what the correct definition of artificial general intelligence is. So I don't know if it's going to be democratized. I'm not sure if that's an open discussion for us. Should it be democratized? That's a frightening world, right? If they actually have artificial general intelligence that's smarter than us. And then the next step is super intelligence. And then we all take the rest of the year off. So,
Okay, one more for you. You have how is sentiment analysis used with LLM and RAG?
I think you got me on this one. So, my understanding, sentiment analysis is built in, right? Because it's that's how these models work to some extent. They're not just looking at they're putting a lot of information together and they're capturing sentiment. That's what makes them look like they're smart. It's a lot of data coming together, and they don't just spew out facts. They understand the nature of the intention from the internet, from all the conversations in their training. So sentiment analysis works in RAG, but the language model is smaller and it's living off of your documents. So you can pre-train uh, those small models too. That's another thing that takes some work. If you pre-train it, they're going to be specific. So if I'm going to develop a model like this and I want sentiment analysis, it's going to be very specific, like a medical small language model, and it will be very good when it comes to medicine, but it will be very bad when it comes to creating a, a spaceship, right? It's just not going to have that. So that's a pretty generic answer. That's all I would know. I'm not there yet. But look at is that anything else? Okay. This is the big mystery. Where's Apple? They've been doing AI for a long time. The word is they bought more AI companies than anybody else. They're doing something. We don't know what they're doing. So stay tuned. People are predicting that at the Worldwide Developer Conference this year, they're going to come out with some interesting things. And if they don't, their stock was going to get crushed. But we think that they're going to do something with Siri in particular. So it might be earth shattering. So keep an eye out for Apple. It's crazy. We haven't heard anything from them. Okay, so this is my buddy Raj GPT, which is the guy that runs my model here, my local model. That's my pet there. I just want to say I'm gonna do a quick pitch for those of you who aren't fully engaged in this. This is the most disruptive opportunity in a generation. It's the most disruptive opportunity in my lifetime. I'll tell you, I remember, so I'm a physicist and I'm work on in solid state physics. I don't work on software. I haven't. I mean, I wrote data acquisition systems, but I'm not like you IT people. And when the personal computer came out, that was great. I used it as a tool in my work. Then the World Wide Web happened. I happened to be in graduate school. We were playing around with, oh, what was the name of the first one? Shoot. Anyway, the opportunity was there. The opportunity was there to jump all over it, but I had other things in mind. And then this is my story of woe. Back in 2008, I had just sold my company. I was sitting at home in New Brunswick. I remember, I can see it like it was yesterday. And Steve Jobs came out and announced, not, it wasn't the iPhone, it was the App Store. That, I looked at that and said, this is it. But I decided I wanted to take one more shot at my fuel cell business, and I blew it. A year later, at their next big conference, they brought out 6-year-olds who are making big bucks selling apps. So that was a miss. So I'm committed. I'm not going to miss this. And the nice thing for mid-career professionals who feel a little threatened by younger people, this democratizes not only your opportunity, but eliminates age as an issue, because actually many people think that uh, the older experienced people are better at writing prompts because they're older and they're more experienced. They can draw from a larger well when they're writing prompts. They're not as impatient either. So I don't know if that's true, but I know this is an opportunity to catch up. So if you thought you should have learned JavaScript a long time ago to be more competitive, or front end, back end, whatever end developing in order to be more competitive, or Python or whatever, this is it. This is your opportunity to leapfrog the competition and catch up in a very short time. So here we go. Another poll. Which sector will AI impact the most in the next 5 years? Healthcare, education, entertainment, transportation, or customer service? A lot of healthcare. There's some great applications, right? Potential. The thing I talk about with some of my friends is the obvious one is radiology and imaging. I had prostate cancer, and I had my pathology report done a couple of times. That's tough. And I also did when I did material science, I did a lot of high-end microscopy, and I know what it's like to count little particles. We had to count particles in a printed circuit board for RF materials. We had to see what the loading was and how even it was distributed. Let me tell you, human beings, yeah, we had some software that helped, and but it's that's tedious. And if I were a pathologist or radiologist, I don't want those people having to stare at the simple things. So they probably send a lot of it overseas. But this thing, AI can do the easier jobs, saving a lot of opportunity for the physician to look at the tough stuff. Same thing goes with diagnostics. I'm particularly interested in education. That's a field that I'm in. And I think customer service is where the money is right now. Everybody's going after customer service. So it'll be interesting to see which one, if I think they'll all have an opportunity. Transportation, if, robo taxis and things like that, it's going to be everywhere. So I don't know what the big one is. All right, so new tools. Again, just to emphasize this, new tools, a history of innovation and science, at least. That's what I'm most familiar with, being a physicist and all. All the innovations happen, and people don't hear about this, right? They hear about the big discovery and the Nobel Prize, although there was a Nobel Prize given for the electron microscope. So it's sometimes true. So a new tool comes out, and all of a sudden it lights up scientific discovery. This is an image of a painting of Galileo, and that's the telescope, not invented by him, but after Galileo, he and Copernicus, and they could finally see experimentally, not just Copernicus did a mathematical model. Galileo saw the planets moving. Not long after Galileo, there are a number of other scientists who saw it. Then Newton came, invented the calculus along with Leibniz and modern mechanics, which changed the world. Just as big a revolution as AI is today. Huge revolution. Tools, the calculus itself was a giant revolution. All started with a telescope. So then here's another example. This all started with a tool. On the right is the Altair 8800. That's what started the whole computer PC revolution. And then we ended up with some low end, but better because they had actual keyboard entry instead of moving little dials up and down. So and if you would have been on top of that, you would have been riding a wave, and you have a chance to ride the wave today. So disrupt yourself, learn a new tool, learn GPT, and then after that, keep going. just remember, if your job is where, especially with us quality people and project managers, my target customer, a lot of what we do is behind at a desk, looking at a computer screen, writing reports, absorbing content, generating content. This is absolutely made for you. And if you're a programmer, my son's a programmer and he just loves it because it's a constant companion to him. It's also, it's a lonely life as a programmer, but he says GPT is actually kind of a friend, and so very encouraging. What can it do for you? It can answer, this by now. It can answer questions. This is the easy stuff. It's a better search engine, but that's just the top end. You can and summarize YouTube videos. That's great too. But the real key is to research and drill down. Once you get a first answer, you keep asking questions. And has the promise to do some analysis. I've done some. It's more problematic and difficult, but it definitely is a big help in coding and macros, when you're doing that, because it has written, come up with some codes and macros for me, and it's been a big help. So learning to me is the biggest application. If I want to learn something new, it'll give me an outline, a guide. It will quiz you. You can tell it to ask you questions. One of the applications I'm working on is for my university students is, when you do an oral exam, just like when you do a job interview, the goal of the job interviewer is often to find out what you don't know. They'll hunt and peck around until they find something you don't know, and then they'll drill down. Now, if they're mean, they're just trying to embarrass you. But generally, what they want to find out is what you don't know and how can you think around the problem. That's what you do in an oral exam with people. But that's what we want to do if we are interested, like in the Khan Academy sort of idea, the flipped classroom. We want to find out what you don't know so we can work on those issues. And I tested this. It will actually hunt around and find the gaps in your knowledge. This is fantastic. Okay, so anyway, as we know, I'm using Microsoft 365, not 365, but Copilot to help with emails. And those nasty email chains? That's the only thing I can see that's really excellent about this. I don't use Teams, so it's supposed to be good there. But if I get a long email chain, I can just have it summarized. Boom, it's done, summarized, and that saves me tons of time by itself. So here's the AI learning path that I promised I would share with you. This is my opinion of the AI learning path. So if you're starting out, or if you're not starting out, get even better at doing prompt engineering with Gemini, Copilot, ChatGPT, etc. Okay. Then also learn. I use all these pictures, diagrams, and things like that in my presentation. Instead of using clip art, I just use Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, or Dolly prompts to get the images, and they're getting better and better, as you could see by the video. Things are getting really good. Then there's advanced prompt engineering, which is something that I'm going to cover more of in our lunch and learn sessions, which is multi-layer contexting, giving, uh, setting the context and creating personas, et cetera, et cetera. People have probably seen a lot of that. And then my favorite topic, I think I'm going to do the next one on this, on my friend over here, which is the local language model in RAG. So a chat with RTX, because for you people in quality, you can take this thing, it's behind the firewall, there's no security issues. You can point your own computer at your documents and get answers really fast. Just that alone, I haven't tested out the rest of the opportunities. APIs is a way that you can connect one application to another. That's going to require this Python or JavaScript. So, my friends, I've been telling myself this. If you don't already know Python or JavaScript, if you don't know a scripting language, it's time to hurry up and do it, because I've got a quote that's not in here. Your pay is directly proportional to how hard your job is. Everybody's going to know this other stuff. Everybody's going to know that. But most of us, it gets a little lazy about learning how to do some software. I'm sure some of you know, and I'm just getting going again. I used to know. I used to do Fortran 100 years ago, so I'm doing Python now. And then, so it's a challenge. And GitHub and Copilot for GitHub will help you learn, help you solve your problems, and understand these ideas behind vector databases and chains and agents. Learn this, and you'll be ahead of the pack. So, what can it do for you? All this other stuff. I think this is a repeat. So we'll skip that. Look, I've got 2 learning paths in here. Okay. This is even maybe more important than what I just listed, the technical skills. This is what I find that people start out. They ask ChatGPT one thing and they get one answer back, and that's it. What you need is curiosity and creativity. We do. I know you all know that. We have speakers here all the time. We always talk about creative thinking. So curiosity is the thing that when you get an answer back, you say, oh, but what about this? Oh, what about that? The other thing is critical thinking at the bottom here. You got to suspect that it's giving you the wrong answer. So, and then you have to know how to convey what you've learned. So data storytelling and visualization, that's always been true. And like I said, this is the other advanced prompt engineering that we'll talk about in a future lunch and learn, which is priming prompts and things of that nature, custom instructions, which is built in now. So there's a lot of interesting things. This is very important, layering context and guidance. So I think that pretty much covers it, folks. Usually, like I said, I would do a demo for things, but I thought the goal of a webinar was just to do a broad stroke. I hope it worked for you. Come to my lunch and learn, and here's a last poll. What types of workshops would you be interested in? Let me know, because I want to be able to offer something. So we have 1 minute to do this. God bless you all. Yeah, I'd love to do a multi-day technical workshop. I'd love to do that because I always keep running into these things. We run out of time. I'd like to get really deep into it and have you bring a computer and actually do some things. Get you a kickstart. All right, I'll move on to the next thing. And I think the next thing's the end. This is what we covered. Here's some resources that will come with the slides. And that pretty much the best way to control the future is to invent it. The end. Thanks for attending and the questions. I really appreciate it.
How about a big round of applause for our speaker, Dr. Ron Kelley? I think we have a lifetime of learning in an hour. Now we have a lifetime of moving forward with all the things that you put on our plate. Dr. Kelley, you are phenomenal. Not only do we have the concepts and the principles, we have the tools and the techniques, and we have a path forward to be able to harness and utilize all of this in no matter what our roles and responsibility or functions are. So thank you so much for an interesting and informative discussion with us and the opportunity to hear you again in a workshop and a lunch and learn going forward. You're getting nothing but rave reviews in the chat, Dr. Kelley. So again, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoy speaking to you all because you're so innovative. You know what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are going to round out this phenomenal session again with a big thank you and just a recognition of all of Dr. Kelley's informative work, very forward leaning, not only teaching, but helping each and every one of us move forward too and advancing the knowledge and topic area within the ASQ and the innovation division writ large. So we'll be reaching back to him to do a special session on our e-blast to help you all look see what the future holds here. So again, on behalf of our ASQ Innovation TC 2024 officers, Ms. Rebecca Mott, Ms. Jackie Jolly, and our immediate past chair, Mr. Larry Miller, we'd like to thank you very much for your attendance and support of these webinar series across 2024. If you are interested in joining our team, which Ron can attest to, we have a phenomenal leader and a dynamic, growing, very innovative and interesting team for you to work on. You can contact, again, Miss Rebecca Mott at the email listed. We want you to engage with us, join us, and support us. And so if you are not already a member of the ASQ Innovation TC, we invite you to join. We have ASQE Insights on Excellence that are innovation oriented that we'd love to share with you. And if you're not a member of ASQ or ASQE, we welcome you to join us. This slide deck will be going out to each and every one of you as attendees, as well as information on the topic and our recording at a later point in time. We invite you to join us again in March, April, and June for the topics Innovation, AI, and the Law, Why Not, start with Why Not, or How About and What If, and utilizing innovation strategies to unlock cost-saving potential in clinical laboratories. So all of the topic areas that Dr. Kelley brought to our attention: ethics, law, this whole innovation spectrum that AI is not only supporting, but really setting on fire, and AI within this healthcare aspect as well, really feeding the innovation that goes on there. Again, our great thanks to Dr. Ron Kelley for being our phenomenal speaker. We hope you had a phenomenal session, and we look forward to serving you again in our March 28th session. ASQ Innovation TC, that's a wrap for today. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Rhonda. I'll send